This is the first mark of
कुछ तो हो गया
कुछ तो हो गया है. During every preparation, every journey, there will always be some time when you will doubt yourself and you will wonder if I've been doing so much for VRC. How is it not giving me any returns? Special mention to analyzing the mock. If you give a mock, do not analyze it. It is a waste. In some ways at least. You would want to be thrown off guard during your prep rather than on the CAT day. So give mocks of various difficulty levels and CL does design it that way itself. I think at the end, you really cannot weigh what aligns better, but you just feel, you go with your gut feeling also sometimes.
Hi everybody, welcome to our Toppers Talk series. We bring this series to you every year. Last year we had it with a couple of students who'd gone ahead and achieved very good results, made it to a top B school. And this year once again, we're very happy to welcome back some of our old CL students who've gone ahead, achieved their very first goal. I wouldn't call it the goal, but their very first goal of making it to a top B school and ensuring that they've set a platform for themselves to go ahead and achieve the upcoming goals. So with that, let me go ahead and quickly, bring Srishti into this conversation. Srishti is a very meritorious student who's got a stellar profile, and the reason I call it stellar is because not only are 10, 12 and undergrads 9, 9, 8, if I hope I've gotten that correct.
Yes.
But she's also got decent amount of work ex, approximately roughly about 3 years of work ex, and very good product oriented, tech oriented work experience. But even after that, she'll take us through her journey of the trials and tribulations that she had to go through to ensure that she cracks not one, not two, but a whole lot of top B schools. So with that, Srishti, all over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a warm welcome. And absolutely, I think the journey of CAT, giving the exam, giving the interviews, and finally making it to the B schools, the receiving those final emails of offer acceptance was surreal. And I think, of course, Career Launcher had a huge role to play in that.
Thank you. So what was the best part of this entire journey? Was it receiving the calls, or was it rejecting all the calls bar one?
I'll have to be honest, the best feeling was, it's a tie between receiving my first offer and receiving the offer that I am finally getting into. So my first offer came from ISB, Indian School of Business, and the college that I'll be joining right now is in IIM Bangalore. So these two offers were my top offers, and each of these emails was equally special to me.
And you got both of them while you were surrounded by family, or was it at work? I heard a very interesting tidbit today about the Bangalore offer, so yeah.
Yes. So I got my ISB offer when I was probably staying with my friends at that time, and it was around 11 in the night after dinner. We were just casually sitting and chit-chatting was when I received my ISB offer, and it was a moment of pure bliss because that was the first offer, and the first offer is always special because that's when you know that, okay, this is the first mark of
कुछ तो हो गया.
कुछ तो हो गया है. Yes, absolutely. Ki I have a great B school in hand. And now for my upcoming things, upcoming interviews, I still wasn't done with my Bangalore interview, I think, by then. So I went into my future interviews with a lot more calm, with a lot more peace that I have a great B school in hand. And whatever I achieve from here is just a bonus. It is just something more that I will have added to my list, and then I can have options to choose from, whichever suits and works best for me. But I remember going into the future interviews with a very, very different mindset, not of panic, not of being anxious, but of having the confidence of having already cracked one B school and then moving on to the next one.
Absolutely.
And just going there with a calm mindset.
Totally, completely understandable. So let's break this conversation into two parts.
Sure.
Part one is the journey to crack CAT, and part two, the journey to crack the B school.
Okay.
So when did this worm, चूहा, जो भी पता नहीं क्या बोलते हैं हिंदी में, कीड़ा बोलते हैं, right? When did this कीड़ा of यार मेरे को भी CAT लिखना है actually start? Because good profile, doing well, working well, earning decent amount of money. Why CAT? Why such a painful thing?
So I think I would say a little bit of probably business runs in my blood, maybe. I think that was a very naive thought to begin with. And I had been working at Microsoft for quite some time. And I was working as a software engineer at Microsoft. And a software engineer's role is to only look at a lot of technical related stuff. We are busy writing code, making documentations, fixing bugs, and all of those things. It is a very tech oriented space. Now, after working in the same role for a couple of years, I realized that I wanted to do something that was a little more business oriented. I wanted to take some business decisions, the strategy of companies, what products they are supposed to bring to markets. And that is when I started talking to the product managers at Microsoft itself, that how has their experience been, what is the work like that they do, and all of those things. And all of those conversations were basically for me to understand this world better, that I was probably planning to step into or was just trying to explore at that time. Ki what is the life of a product manager? What do these people do? And that is when I started to know about these things a little bit more. And that's when I thought ki I have known enough.
So CAT पहले लिखा है, or was this the first attempt?
No, this was my first
So
attempt.
first attempt. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Then I was like, okay, I do want to get into the business space. That became clear with a lot more just self-reflection, talking to a lot of people from various domains. And that made it clear कि MBA तो करना है अब. And that was when I was like, अब MBA करना है और एक business role में जाना है अगर, तो let's just do it the right way. Let's just give CAT or GMAT and see what works best for me. And I did not give it a lot of thought ki whether I want to write CAT or whether I want to write GMAT, what are the B schools that open up for me. But I did know that the syllabus for both CAT and GMAT are somewhat similar. So I started preparing for CAT when all of this happened ki I really want to pivot into an MBA focused role. And that was when it started, sometime in mid 2024, I would say.
So what? Roughly about 6-7 months before the actual CAT, or maybe
Yes.
8 months.
Yes,
roughly
yes.
before
6
the
months
actual
before
Yeah.
CAT.
So yeah. So there'll be a lot of students at this time also who will be thinking something very similar, like you are. Thinking, ठीक है, मेरे को CAT करना है, मेरे को MBA करना है. This is the exam that I need to crack. What were the elements that you chose when you decided how you wanted to prep? मतलब, one is you would have decided prep करना है.
Correct.
Then you would have decided, ठीक है, prep करना है. I've been working for about 2 years or so, so probably I need a little bit of help.
हाँ.
I would want to join somewhere. So what were the different parameters that you judged, basis which then you finally decided, ठीक है, यहाँ prep करना है, यहाँ से शुरू करते हैं?
Okay. So the first thing for me has always been asking people around, because the people you know are the people who have either similar profiles as you or they've been working with you. So you more or less come from similar backgrounds. So that was the first step. I reached out to people who were either in B schools, or who were in their stages of interview, or who were in their second year or had already graduated. I spoke to people from all various stages to get a clearer picture of how it looks like immediately 1 year, 2 year, 3 years down the line, and got to know how they prepped. A lot of my friends went to various coaching institutes. A lot of them prepared on their own as well. So there were both methods of preparation. But the important thing here was to know myself. What did I need? I needed a structure in which that works for me. And that is why I spoke to people and got to know their experiences. And especially, I think there were 1 or 2 friends of mine who had given CAT last year and they got into some great B schools, IIM Ahmedabad and one's in IIM Bangalore itself. And they had also come from Career Launcher. And they told us, and they told me that these were the things that Career Launcher provides. These are the things that worked for them. And so this is, basically they told me the facts. This is it, this is it, this is it. Just see if this works for you. And I think at the time, it sounded perfect for me. Night classes was a great option for me. It gave me the flexibility to study whenever I wanted to. The lectures are recorded as well. So in case I'm not able to watch a lecture, skip because of some other responsibilities, I can always watch the lecture later on. So that was there. the mock test series was, I had read great reviews on the internet as well as gotten to know about it from friends. So I think these were some of the key factors that helped me decide that this is how I want to do it. And I refrained from self preparation because um, you somehow tend to get distracted a little bit, and it makes it tough to stay on track. Now, this is a personal experience that I know myself,
Sure.
कि अगर मेरे पास एक कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट का स्ट्रक्चर है, in that case I will function better, I will have better results, and I will have a peer group, I will have a go-to person for doubts, I'll have a go-to person for calling up when I'm absolutely confused. I've called you up, sir,
Yeah.
when I was confused, because during every preparation, every journey, there will always be some time when you will doubt yourself and you will wonder if you're on the
And I
right
think it's
track or not.
important for everybody to realize that that's normal.
That is absolutely normal because we are all humans and we all have an expectation from ourselves that is above what we are already at. So the self doubt will always creep in. You will always be confused about some marks in your mocks. I have scored really low in some mocks. I have scored really high in some mocks. But mocks are meant to be like that because you never know what's going to come up on your CAT
Correct.
examination day. If all your mocks are of the same level and CAT examination turns out to be different, then the mocks would not be as useful. But since the mocks are of different levels, it gives you the panic, a practice of panic, I would say,
Absolutely.
so that you do not actually panic on the examination
Yeah.
day.
So simulation, I think
Yes.
what you're getting to is simulate as much as what you will experience on the day as is possible. Obviously, there would be certain things which you cannot simulate,
Right.
but yeah, as much as possible. So interesting. So let's look at that journey. If I'm not wrong, this would have happened somewhere in the months of around February, March of 2024, where you decided, okay, so this is the
Yes.
methodology that I want to follow. Perfect. So now you've enrolled in a course, and like you stated, you're working. Your one major reason for enrolling in this sort of a online night class oriented course was night hai, there is a higher probability I might be able to attend it live.
Yes.
Hypothetically, if that doesn't happen, I at least have videos so that I can refer to it.
Absolutely.
Actually, कितने percentage live attend किया?
Probably 50%.
Not bad, not bad. I think
Yes.
that's still a decent number. How would you bifurcate that in your quant, DILR, and verbal? Maximum कहाँ पे ज़्यादा? That okay, this though I have to attend. Come what may, I can't miss this.
I think it was VARC because VARC was was the subject where I thought I needed the most help, and being in the class helps because then I can ask a doubt immediately. For quant and DILR, I knew that I needed a practice and a structure, and even if I'm not able to attend the live classes, I usually did not end up having a lot of questions during the class. It would flow smoothly for me, and watching the lectures later on worked for me for quant and DILR. So verbal was one subject which I preferred to attend live most of the times.
Perfect. And I think that brings us to a very important part, which is your profile.
Right.
And engineer from
DTU.
So, we've done this a lot, many times, and a lot of people come onto the channel and then they state another person with a stellar profile making it to a top B school. Can 888s not make it? Can 777s not make it? And I'm digressing a little, but you did tell me that you did spend a little bit of time at ISB. You spoke a little bit about the batch and the students who've ventured into ISB this year, and your conversation with a few of them. So while I'm taking a detour, I think this is kind of in sync with what we were just talking about, which is profile. Why don't you share a little bit, a tidbit about the kind of profiles that you met at ISB, and probably say a month and a half down the line, I'll also ask you the same question about the kind of profile you met at B, because I really feel this is a misnomer that students have कि अगर 999 नहीं है 998 नहीं है तो कुछ नहीं कर पाएंगे.
Right.
So yeah.
I think first of all, my experience at ISB was I was only there for a couple of days, but I think it was a really great experience. I had a great time there. especially because I met a lot of people from varying backgrounds. You would think that people there are only engineers and CAs, but that's not true. They genuinely believe a lot in diversity, I think, and which is why I actually happened to meet so many people in campus who had come from various backgrounds. Some of the most unique ones, I would say, were lawyers, makeup artists,
Wow.
professional sportsmen, sportswomen. I think a few, if I might, I may not remember the exact specifics, but
Sure.
something around somebody is a rifle shooter, somebody's a lawn tennis player, somebody's a basketball player, there's a political consultant, there's a dentist, there are doctors around. I think so.
So
Everybody's there.
yeah, brilliant. And that's the true definition of diversity. And which is why we state that ठीक है पुराने पाप हो गए थोड़ा difficult होता है पर focus on what's in front and hopefully उसमें से कुछ तो धुल जाएगा at a certain point in time. So coming back to where I was, which is if you look at it from your profile perspective, I think quant you would have anyways felt कि थोड़ा is an area of strength.
Yes,
That this is one
absolutely.
place that I think I can handle. So how did you kickstart? Because I remember you told me just some time back कि your preparation started with writing the CAT 23 exam
Yes,
ka some slot,
yes.
right? So if you can just get a little deeper into that.
So, as soon as I had decided that I will appear for CAT this year, I wanted to know a baseline mark where I am standing currently with absolutely no preparation. So, and I think that is something every student must do, keeping in mind that that does not define who you are, and that is just your bottom line. Like if you were to write CAT today, that is where you will anyway reach. And just take it as a starting point, assess what you know, what you do not know, what felt very intuitive, and what is something that felt absolutely alien. Because at the end, CAT examination is not something that tests some new knowledge or requires you to study something absolutely new or crazy. It, in a way, tests everything you've already done in a slightly different way, I would say. So that gave me a good perspective. I wrote CAT 23 mock sitting at home, sitting in my room. So,
You
and
can still picture it.
yes, I think I was surprised that it felt like back to mathematics days and all of that, the fun math part that we used to have back in school. So that was a pleasant experience. Writing quant, DILR, and verbal, I was able to do some DILR sets while writing the first mock. So when I say first mock, this is before I started preparation,
Prep,
just
yeah.
a previous year. The quant questions seemed very familiar, and VARC was something which took me off guard because literature or probably just reading is not something I have been in constant touch with. Um, my job did not require me to read a lot as such. Probably technical, of course, yes, but not literature. So VRC took me off guard, and that was my first indicator that okay, VRC is something that I might face problems with. And historically, I've seen engineers usually have a problem with
Correct.
this particular
Spot on.
subject. Yes. So knew it beforehand and strategized it the same way that this is one area that I need to focus well. Strategized in a way that quant and DILR need to be my strengths, and this is what is going to take my percentile higher. And I think the final results also were in line with the same
So I think,
expectations.
yeah, so very important. This, personally also, this is a recommendation I give students, which is CAT to me is a test of your areas of strength. And area of strength में good नहीं चलेगा.
Yes, you have to
Stud.
be.
You have to be very, very, very good. Be excellent there. So if in two sections, quant plus DLR in her case, if you can score about 80, 85 there, verbal 25, 30 marks, and you still have a 99.5 plus in your pocket and hopefully a decent number of calls that you get.
Yes.
And maybe higher. So similarly, if it goes the other way around, if verbal is your area of strength, ensure just in verbal itself, can I score a 54, 55? So that's, me just putting in my line there. Apologies for that. But yeah, that is something that, I'll put in. So just, in your preparation phase, I'm sure you came across a lot of highs and lows.
Absolutely.
So, number one, how many lows do you remember? How many of them almost led you to the brink of ठीक है शायद गलत decision है शायद ये नहीं करना चाहिए छोड़ना चाहिए and finally what is it that eventually helped you overcome it?
Okay. So I would say there were a couple of lows, especially when a difficult mock would come up. I would score low, and that would shatter my confidence for once.
What's the lowest percentile you got in a mock?
In a mock, it's hard to recall, but probably 85 or something, I guess.
Okay. Not lower?
Not sure, not able to recall. Maybe I just wiped it out of my memory.
I think वो होगा.
Probably.
There must be a mock here or there which would have been in 60s, 70s also. It does
Maybe,
happen. But
maybe.
yeah.
That's absolutely
Yeah.
possible because I would not have been at my best during every single mock. I've
Exactly,
written so
absolutely.
many.
Yeah.
So that is always there. And I think a random tough mock would throw me off guard and it would shatter my confidence for a while. Or I think there were a couple of moments when, especially I wouldn't say lows, but sometimes when you're burnt out and you feel like for a week you don't really study. Maybe that happened around September, for example. I for a week I could not really study a lot. Maybe I studied for an hour or two every day at max, or maybe just wrote like one daily dose every day of every subject. That was really helpful. I think yes, that is one thing I would like to point
Yeah.
out. The daily dose is one of the best features of the entire program, I feel, because just 15 minutes investment in a subject compounded over so many days can add up in ways that you cannot really think of
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Becomes difficult to quantify that.
Exactly, because if you were to bring yourself to write a full mock or even a sectional, you need to be sure that you're free for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 5 minutes extra, buffer, whatever. But for a 15-minute daily dose, it's just like a tea break. You can write a 15-minute daily dose, and even if you like analyze it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because it's just a couple of questions, it'll not take you longer than that. And that is a good amount of practice that keeps happening gradually. And because it's like a revision sort of thing, every day you're writing 5 questions, it is absolutely helpful. It really compounds, and the shorter duration is the main factor here because everybody has 15 minutes.
Yeah.
However busy you are, you have 15 minutes. And if you just consistently do that, that is extremely helpful.
And one thing I like about the daily dose is the fact that we don't let you take it the next day.
Yes, absolutely.
It forces you.
Yes.
That forcing function, I think people underestimate, very often. But that kind of, translates into very good results. You generally state it takes about 21 days for anything to become a habit.
Yeah.
Do this for 21 days and then just see where you are.
Absolutely. I have written some daily dose at 11:30 in the night because I'm like, if I
Karna
don't
hai.
write it, I'll not see what the questions are. What if one of these questions is very similar to what comes in my CAT? Because it
Exactly.
has been formulated in a certain way. Every daily dose is different. It progresses in a certain way. Even missing out on one, you have major FOMO. Us din wala daily dose reh gaya. And that red colored
Yeah.
button that comes up, it doesn't turn green. It always feels like you had to make it green.
Press karna hai.
Yes.
Hota nahi hai. But yeah, okay.
So, so
Correct.
those were the lows, and I think I did face lows with VRC because my VRC percentile did not match up to quant and DILR.
What do you eventually get in VRC, in CAT?
It was 89 point something.
And that must have been growth from roughly what? I remember you telling me there was a mock where it was
Yeah, I
very
think
low.
the lowest I would have scored in a VRC would have been like 40 percentile, 50 percentile, something like that. And so when you see something like that, you really get fed up of yourself. I've been doing so much for VRC. How is it not giving me any
Yeah,
returns?
correct.
But I think it is a silent thing. Like you just need to put in the effort. You need to keep doing the questions. And I think at the end of the day on CAT, you will end up doing somewhat decent. Although I think I did panic a little bit. Everybody panics on
Which
the day
slot
of
did
the
you have?
exam. I had slot 3, yes.
Slot 3.
I hope so, if I
कुछ
can
ज़्यादा ही
recall
सुन के गई थी
correctly.
कैसे गए थे slot 1 and 2?
So I think my slot DILR was slightly difficult as
yeah.
compared to the other two,
As
and
per the
quant
data,
was
yeah.
slightly easier. Verbal was probably
More or less
similar.
yeah,
Yes.
across 3 slots. But I'm saying, did you, talk to a few of your students and classmates? कैसा गया है?
I talked
And then
to
get in
one
with.
specific friend only, not keeping it too
Yeah,
wide.
makes sense.
Because I had been preparing with her, not preparing with her, but I had been in touch with her during my entire CAT preparation. We
Okay.
were preparing, we used to discuss doubts and all once in a while. So I would trust her judgment of the paper because I did not want a completely different judgment than what I myself would have given. So I spoke to only one person, got to know her feedback about the paper, and went in with the thinking that even if it is completely different from this, I should not get scared because
Sure.
it is, everything is unpredictable. Maybe two
Absolutely.
slots were easy, this one becomes way more tough, or the other way around, that they were moderate and this one comes out to be the other way.
Correct.
So that is one thing I had in mind for sure. I will just see the question, attempt or not attempt. I will not really carry the baggage of the number of questions that I have to attempt after the paper has begun. So no looking back once it has begun. I need to just be in the moment, see how many questions I can do, and attempt at the merit of the question, and not thinking if the paper is easy or tough. So
Absolutely.
that
So
is
the last part of that question, how did you overcome the lows? What were the 2-3 things?
overcoming the lows was to believe in myself, that more like just believe in data. Being an engineer, being a coder,
Nice.
believe in data.
Nice.
If you've given 10 mocks, one has gone bad or two have gone bad, that's an outlier. The 8 have gone well.
Correct.
Focus on that and believe in yourself based on all of these. But at the same time, take those 2 mocks also, keep it in mind. Do not ignore it completely. Think that on a bad day, this is the worst you can do. So you set a bottom benchmark for yourself also, that this is the worst that can happen. At the same time, 80% probability you will do good. And there also the fact that some mocks are designed to throw you off guard. Keeping that in mind, just bringing the facts back to my head कि ऐसा है, mock stuff बनाए गए थे. It's not just you who has scored low. Also, not focusing on scores but focusing on percentile, because everything is a percentile game at the end. Nobody is checking if you've scored 10 marks or 20 marks. You could have scored a lower percentile at 20 and a higher at 10 because the paper was tough.
Correct.
So just coming back and seeing the percentile was more important, and not thinking कि quant में तो 18 questions I had decided, how come I could attempt only 10 today. The question paper was made in such a way. So I think that really helped.
So last two questions for this particular phase, which is the CAT prep phase. Number one, you stated night classes. You were a part of night class. So some 2 to 3 things that you remember that you felt, okay, this is why this decision was probably correct. This is something that helped me a lot. And then finally, from your perspective, to all the students out there who might be watching this whenever, what are the 2 things to keep in mind in terms of this CAT preparation phase, whether it is subject oriented, whether it is an intangible, like you stated, simulate all that you could with respect to CAT and stuff like that. So 2 things to keep in mind with respect to the do's and 2 things to keep in mind with respect to the don'ts.
Okay. So the first question, why night classes helped me, I think one, just knowing that there are recorded lectures, even if you miss, but it is on you to see the recorded lectures. I made sure to see the recorded lectures after I've missed them. You can also watch it at a higher speed. If you think this is an area of strength, you don't need to invest that much time because you will always have limited time. For example, a particular probability in mathematics was something I was very familiar with. I watched the video at 2x. That works for me, but I made sure to watch it so as to not miss any small tips and tricks that are very relevant for CAT. I might know the subject in and out, but those tips and tricks could be very, very useful and save those 30 seconds and fetch you an extra mark.
Correct.
So I think recorded lectures was one thing. And second, the faculty that was teaching the subjects, they were like, you were there, Gautam Puri sir was there, Ravi Teja sir was there for DILR, and Aditya sir was there for VARC. So all these faculty, they've been in the industry for so long, they really know what they're teaching. They know the subject, and they know how to teach you for CAT. Because here we are all in this situation, not specifically from a research purpose or absolute knowledge purpose. We
Very
are all
valid.
here with a shared goal to crack CAT.
Correct.
And I think that is very important to not divert from that goal. And that is something that is done really well. Also, a third bonus pointer
Yeah, sure.
is the fact that the faculty was very easily approachable. Like, I spoke to probably almost 4 to 5 faculties regarding my preparation. Not even ki I have this doubt, what is the solution? That's a very level 1 conversation. But apart from that, I really wanted to speak to faculty regarding मेरे 10th में ये marks थे, 12th में ये marks थे, undergraduate was this. I am here in my prep for quant, DILR and verbal, and I do not know where to proceed from here. Then at a later stage, I felt like I have reached a stagnation and I'm constantly getting a good percentile. But how do I move further from here? What is the next extra step that I can do for making quant my strongest, even like second first as compared to DILR? So just those extra tips and tricks and the faculty being approachable and giving you sufficient time and not making you feel ki jaldi bhagna hai. They were patiently there for the call, and sometimes I would wonder how are they like taking out time for this, but I think that was genuinely very helpful for me. So that is one thing.
Yeah.
Do's and don'ts. Do's, first, do not ignore any subject. You need to clear the cutoff in all 3 subjects. एक सब्जेक्ट में भी कट ऑफ क्लियर नहीं हुआ, you don't get marks in VARC, score 99.9 in DILR QA, you won't get a call from Blackie.
Absolutely.
Anywhere. However much you hate that subject, if you're an engineer, you'll probably hate VRC. If you're a non-engineer, you might hate quants or DILR or both. But if you've chosen the game, you have to play it well. You have to play all the 3 subjects well enough.
Correct.
Just well enough, at least, I would say.
Agreed.
I'm not saying if you don't like VRC, try for a 99.9. That is a don't, I would say. Do not try to overkill it in your weakest area. Try to bring it to a very safe zone, I would say, and then try to level up the other 2.
Absolutely.
That is
exactly what I was saying, I think, some time back. Where ensure that your area of strength is not just good.
Yes.
It is
spectacular.
Yeah,
because your areas of strength is something you will probably enjoy studying and you're good at. You just need to enjoy it more and be better at it.
Absolutely.
So that is one do. The other is to write mocks, because a lot of the people I've spoken to have just focused on mocks. They have just given a mock and analyzed it. And special mention to analyzing the mock. If you give a mock, do not analyze it. It is a waste, in some ways at least. Because giving a mock is a simulation, and the more you simulate the real exam day, the more at ease you will feel on the exam day. Which is why I think it is very important to give the mocks. And do not expect all mocks to be the same, because that will again not help you. You would want to be thrown off guard during your prep rather than on the CAT day. So give mocks of various difficulty levels, and CL does design it that way itself. So give mocks, analyze them, topic wise, subject wise, area of strength, area of weakness. Keep a track, track your progress. So I think this is the second most important do, I would say. Don'ts, I would say, I'd have to think of this. Don't is to just don't be inconsistent, I think. Consistency is important.
Very important.
You will not be at your best every day. You might not be able to study your target number of hours or complete your target number of questions every day. But just making some progress every day, even on the days you don't feel like, is important. And
sometimes just showing up is very important.
Yes, sometimes just showing up is very important. And know yourself. You need to have a reality check of where you are today, how much time you have, what is your goal. And do not try to, basically you should just know yourself, not just in terms of your academic strengths, but in your methods of studying. For example, I knew that I needed a structure. Without a structure, I will not be able to navigate my prep efficiently. So such similar small things about yourself, you need to know that what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and what you are aiming for. Everybody aims for the best. At the same time, you need to keep a progress. If in a 4 months duration, you've not moved your percentile at all, then you need to rethink, stop, and maybe do something different. You could be doing something wrong. Reach out to people. It is very important. Reach out to people, reach out to your faculty, and they will definitely guide you. They are there to guide you. That is really important. So, yeah, I
Yeah, I
think
think
that's it.
spot on. Some very good insights. One thing which I'll probably add from my end is don't forget to relax. Don't forget to chill a little as well, because sometimes it just becomes very overwhelming when all that you're doing is focusing on this thing, especially if you're working, because you're at work about 10-12 hours a day, then you're trying to spend about 4-5 hours doing just this, and then every day you have no time to do anything else. So spend time with friends, have a chat with your parents, spend time with family, go out, watch a movie, थोड़ा IPL देख लो, ये क्रिकेट देखते नहीं पर आप देख लो, but something along those lines. Just go ahead and spend time. Though you do play sports, so
Yeah,
she's still a little sporty. But yeah, I think that's one important thing. Don't overdo it. Like she said, don't overkill your area of weakness. Don't overkill this preparation either. Ensure that it is fun, because if the fun element moves out, it will become very difficult. So just keep that in mind. Let's move to the second part of the journey, which I think, at least from your perspective, I think would have been slightly easier. Reason being, a lot of your interviews might have concentrated on work. They
absolutely.
would have spoken a little bit about what you've done, different projects you've done, what you've learned from it, why you want to do an MBA now, considering all of that. So I'm guessing it would have been slightly easier from that perspective. But did you also need to go ahead and spend some time preparing your undergrads?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because if you want to be sure to crack an interview, you cannot leave any stone unturned. You need to know all the different verticals that they ask from, and you need to prepare each of them to a certain extent
And
at
did they
least.
ask you like which interviews, which colleges
I
got into
think
it?
both IIM Bangalore, IIM Calcutta interviews had questions from my undergraduate. And the good part is,
Important.
some of the interviewers might just ask you, what's your favorite subject? Because they're
Hmm.
not there to just look at your weakness. They're there to see what you can provide to the table, what you bring
Correct.
to the table. And they'll ask you your favorite subject. They'll probably ask you questions from that. So you need to have a few areas of strength, because in undergraduate, almost everybody is taught a very wide diversity of subjects. So nobody expects you to know everything about everything. You need to know a few things and know it well. I think knowing it well was extremely important.
Correct. So overall, how was your stage two preparation? What are the two, three things that you focused on?
Hmm.
What are the three things? And I'll make this a long question. It'll kind of encapsulate everything I want to state.
Sure.
The two, three things you focused on, and through your journey, what are the two, three do's and the don'ts for
Okay.
this phase of prep?
Okay. So, what I focused on was, because I had work experience as a software engineer at Microsoft, I knew that there would be questions from this work experience the most, because this is something that really stands out in the profile when I'm being
Absolutely.
interviewed. I had to know, I had to just like rethink everything and be crystal clear about what I had done. Just revise, look at the projects that I've done, recall the internal work I have done, everything from year one.
The how,
And
what, and the why.
yes, how, what, and the why. Think about some spikes, as they say, that what were the highlights in
Correct.
my work experience, what were some things that I really enjoyed doing. And the interviewers will also ask you what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses in various forms. They'll not straight up ask you strengths and weaknesses. They might just ask you, what was one instance at work when you think you messed up and how did you handle it? What was one thing at work when you think you were praised the most and you did a spectacular
Yeah.
job? What was a crisis you handled at work? So it might not always be about technical work, because the interviewer might be from a field of work that is completely unrelated to yours and might not know
Absolutely.
it in depth. But they can always ask you these questions. And I
Even
think,
the forms actually
yes,
do ask these
absolutely.
questions, even if it's not asked directly in an
IIM
interview.
Bangalore had an SOP that we
Yeah.
had to write, and ISB had three main questions, three long essays that we had to write. So I think writing those essays, SOPs, brought me a lot of clarity in my own thoughts, because that is when I am trying to recall everything I've done think about the best parts, think about the different types of questions that I have to answer. And with each question, it prompts me to think about a very different experience. And sometimes those experiences connect, and I can
Absolutely.
be like, oh, this is what I can make an answer. This is an answer for this kind of a question.
Correct.
So I think when people say that, oh, I do not have enough experience, I think you just need to think hard enough, think deep enough to, and frame your story. It's all about the story you say. And when I say story, I do not mean a fictional story. It is your real life story.
Correct.
But the way you narrate it, the way you present it is super important. I think that was there. So I think I digressed from the
No, no, no,
question.
it's absolutely fine, because I think my first part was what are the key learnings that you
Right.
came across. So I think this is a very important key learning, which is everyone has a story, and it's about ensuring that you state it in such a manner that it's interesting and you believe in it, and then they go ahead and they realize, okay, so these are important and interesting elements, let's get a little deeper into it. So whether it is work, whether it is acads, everything, all of that is a part of your story. And I think
Absolutely.
that's a nice way of looking at it, because sometimes students turn around and state, why are they asking me this, why are they asking मैंने undergraduate में ये subject में ये क्या किया. There's a specific reason. The reason is not to state इसको 0 on 100 दे रहे हैं, 100 on 100 दे रहे हैं knowledge में. It is sometimes just to judge how is this person reacting when I'm asking something like this.
Absolutely. And I think that is the one line explanation of my IIM Calcutta
Yeah.
interview.
Oh, okay. What was that? Just go a little deeper into it.
So my IIM Calcutta interview began on a completely unrelated note. They asked me about Jammu and Kashmir somewhat randomly, and I have absolutely no connection to Jammu and Kashmir. Neither do I belong from that particular state, nor have I worked in that state. So it came as a shock to me that how
ये क्यों?
come, huh? So that was one thing, and they kept on going about it. I was confident about some things that they asked, but after a point when they started asking me about countries, geography, some political stances, and all of those things, I had some limited knowledge about certain
Absolutely.
things. And after a few questions, I did say that, sir, this is how much I know about it, and I will make sure to go and look about it more once I'm out from here. But then there came a follow up question. Then there was a follow up question. And at one point, I was like, I have already mentioned that I do not know about this. But I think that was a stress interview, I would
Yeah.
say. And yeah,
Yeah, it's more about judging how you're reacting to the situation rather than
absolutely.
caring about whether you know the answer or not.
They just probably wanted to check if I kept calm and how I responded to a particular situation. And then they asked me a question from my UG subject. So maybe more so, it was going on parallelly. There were three panelists, and the panelist in the center was asking me to solve a math question from my undergraduate, because she probably happened to be a professor or a PhD in that subject, something like that. Um, and at the same time, while I'm solving that question on pen and paper, the third panelist is asking me about Jammu and Kashmir. So it's like two
Okay.
things happening at the
Lovely.
same time.
Lovely.
Yeah, that
Nice.
was really interesting. And
Yeah.
I think they probably wanted to see if I could solve the math question while
While
being stress
yeah.
tested.
So that's a nice intangible. All of you trying to simulate an interview. Try solving math while answering geography or history. Try doing that. Okay, so the next part, which is
Hmm.
just like your preparation for CAT,
Yes.
similarly for this phase two, the 2 to 3 important do's and don'ts.
Okay. For do's, I would say, first of all, you should have, if you have work experience, know everything about your work experience, and you can find everything on the internet now. Look at the top 10 most asked questions about work experience. They'll all be about the same couple of things I mentioned: best thing at work, lowest point at work, challenge at work, conflict resolution at work, all of those things. So you would have some experience with all of these aspects. Prepare in your head, prepare in front of the mirror if needed, prepare with a friend if needed who's preparing for
Sure.
interviews as well. Just prepare these things for work experience, I would say, because if you have work experience, the panelists will definitely, or most likely, there is no definitely in a CAT interview, will ask you about that.
Absolutely.
Second, your conversation skills in the interview matter quite a bit, I think. Because if you know the answer to something, but you're not able to present it clearly, you're not able to present or articulate your ideas clearly in front of the panelists, the knowledge is not helpful because it could not get conveyed. That is really important, I think. What else? So, do's for the prep. Know a little bit of GK, know about current affairs. You may or may not be somebody who is into reading newspapers or keeping very up to date with this, but you will have to touch upon that area.
So did you go through the impact analysis documents or anything like that in your preparation?
Nope,
Okay.
not this.
Okay. Sure.
But, and the third thing is, you should know your HR questions, as they say. Tell me about yourself. It sounds very basic and yet is one of the toughest questions to answer.
Yeah, your answer to where you are from is itself a very interesting answer. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And because interviewers try to be creative, but they sometimes might just go to the basics to throw you off guard because you thought they'll be creative. They'll
Correct.
just say, tell me about yourself. And you're like, oh, I thought nobody would ask me this.
Correct.
So that's there. Know your basics. Tell me about yourself. What is your strength? What is your weakness? It could be something as basic as this, or something really interesting as what could we change in our curriculum at IIM Lucknow. This was one of my questions.
Oh, interesting.
And they asked,
which means you need to know what is there in the curriculum to be able to recommend what to change.
Yes, but I'm not sure if they really expected you to know that, but they would have probably just asked that question out of like, either you know it or just say something that you
Or
can
be-
think of.
Yeah, be smart enough to think on your
be
feet.
innovative. You've done your undergraduate, so you've at least been to one college. You know how a college functions.
Absolutely.
So just think of something, maybe. Maybe you have a friend who is in a different college and this college doesn't do this. Think of something like that.
Correct.
So that is there. I think, yeah, we've covered most of the verticals.
Yeah. So couple of the don'ts.
Don'ts. Do not panic in the interview, whatever they ask. You could be an engineer and they might ask you psychology for some reason, but do not panic.
Correct.
I think that is the most important thing. I got to know about somebody during one of my interviews that he was in the dramatics club of his college and he was asked to enact out a scene.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
yes, interviews can be extremely random. So do not prepare for questions and answers format. It is more of a conversational format. And be prepared for the most unexpected questions, most unexpected topics. But at the same time, you do have certain opportunities during the interview to steer the interview in the direction you want.
Absolutely.
So apart from your basic academics and work experience, think of a couple of things that you would want to steer the interview towards if you had a chance, because that is when you can hit the bullseye. If there is one topic you're passionate about, even if it is cricket, a lot of people in India are passionate about cricket, and that could be a great conversation starter. So if you are given a chance, maybe some interviewer will just come say, tell me about something that you're really interested about. Now, they have given you an open space to talk about anything. You can talk about the business aspects of cricket, how India earns money through cricket, how the players are earning money through cricket. You could probably just talk about the sport. You could talk about the brand deals that the players get. So there are many aspects that you can touch about any topic. So that's the thing. Interviews can be absolutely crazy, but do not panic. So that is one thing. And second, I would say, do not treat interviews as a very, very formal situation, because if you want to, you can make it as conversational and as at ease as you can think
Possibly
of.
can.
Because they are not there to mess with you, they are not there to judge you, they are just there to assess you if you are decent enough for the next round.
Yeah.
So play to your strengths. Do not try to mug up all your undergraduate subjects, especially the ones you were weak at during the last stages, because nobody does that. It is impossible to do everything that you've studied in 3 to 4 years of your undergraduate in just maybe a month or two, because that's the time you have left after CAT. I think my first interview was in January.
Yeah, I think Jan last week is when Lucknow starts, generally,
Yes,
on an
yes,
average.
and that was when I had my
Yeah,
Lucknow interview. So, and I also gave GMAT after CAT and had to write those ISB essays as well, which do
correct.
take up a lot of time.
Yeah, and in case you're not writing GMAT, some others might be writing that.
Oh,
So it will be
yes,
exactly
I
the
wrote
same
that as
situation.
well.
Yeah,
So, GMAT, that, and then you barely have any time left if you get a interview scheduled in
exactly.
January, like I did.
3
So,
weeks.
yes, absolutely. Because at the beginning of the prep, you might be like, oh, interview, I'll prepare later. But it really
Absolutely.
doesn't work that way. And that's the thing. Do not take the pressure of that I have just this much time. What do I do? There are certain important things that you have to do. Prepare your work ex well, prepare a few important things from your undergraduate well, know your HR questions, do not panic. And I think these are just the main things that you need to do. Do not try to overkill in any one of these, but know a little bit of all of these.
Absolutely. Spot on. One last thing to end,
Yes.
this on a, I think, the highest note that's possible. How did your parents react with the conversions?
Oh, I think they were very, very happy because I think it was a journey not just for me, but for them as well. Because when I'm preparing, they are constantly in touch with me that, hey, how have you been doing? How are your mocks going? Are you satisfied with your prep? So I think it was,
And it's more difficult for them because you were not at home.
yes.
There might be a few others studying from home. You were away, so they have no idea about the
Right.
difficulties.
Absolutely. So, sometime for the time that I was away and all, it becomes more challenging because you are not seeing them every day and they are
Correct.
concerned about you. Ki, how is the prep going? All of that. So,
Stress
it
तो नहीं
is,
है.
हाँ.
खाना खा रहे हो.
खाना पीना तो नहीं भूल गए.
Correct.
So, yeah, I think they were equally more than happy when I got ISB admit, when I got IIM Bangalore admit, and they were like, that's
घर में
great.
आए ये? नहीं नहीं, बैंगलोर छोड़ दो, आईएसबी जाते हैं. ये हुई बात कभी?
No, not exactly, but more like a productive discussion on pros and cons of colleges.
Nice.
More not pros and cons, rather I would say what aligns with my aspirations better and what do I want to achieve out of an MBA. So that was
And I'm
always
quite
there.
sure I said last पर उठ के ही आ गया because I'm just envisioning कि ये डालेंगे और there'll be somebody asking this question. Why B over ISB?
I have been asked that question
See,
at least 40 times by now. I think by
नंबर भी ऐसा लिया कि हम ये बोल नहीं सकते exaggerate किया है बहुत ज़्यादा, but okay.
I mean, there were 400 people at ISB. So I think 10% of them and a few others from here and there would have asked. But I think it was a very, very tough decision to make because after spending some time at the campus, I was already having a great time and the people around were great. Everything was great.
So those of you who are not aware, she had taken admit in ISB. She had joined. Course started on
12th of April,
12th of April, and IIM Bangalore final results came on the 21st. So she was already at
ISB.
ISB for what, about a week or so,
Right.
roughly. Yeah.
And so I think it was a very, very tough decision because both the colleges are absolutely amazing in their own ways and they have very similar things to offer and very different things to offer, both of those things. ISB is a 1 year MBA and IIM Bangalore is a 2 year MBA. And I think at this point, I wanted to spend a little more time during my MBA figuring out many different domains that I have in front of me, the different domains that I can explore, do a full internship before I step into the final placements, probably go out on a student exchange as well to gain a diverse experience. And I think at the end, you really cannot weigh what aligns better, but you just feel, you go with your gut feeling also
Yeah.
sometimes because it's very difficult to compare two great
No, I
colleges.
agree totally. I just wanted to put you on the spot. Why not? Why not?
Why not?
But yeah, so I think overall, Srishti, it's been a wonderful conversation.
Yes,
And
likewise.
from all of us here at Career Launcher, congratulations to you to
Thank you,
everybody
sir.
at home. I'm sure you'll go ahead and make us proud. And this is just probably one of the very first few associations you're going to have with CL. Hopefully, students and us, we're going to have many more conversations. And
Absolutely.
it's been great to have you here, and it's been wonderful hearing about your entire journey over the last year and a half. So I'm quite sure there are quite a few students out there who are motivated, wanting to ensure, okay, हम भी सृष्टि दीदी के चरणों पे चलेंगे. So that's it from our end, and congratulations, Srishti.
Thank you so much, sir. I think this has been a great conversation, summing up my entire CAT preparation journey to conversion and also touching base a little bit upon how I built on this completely.
Yeah.
And I think it has been great just being a part of CL, the support and confidence that I have gotten because of just being just preparing with CL. Especially, I think my favorite was always speaking to the faculty, because when they are available and they are the ones who clear the confusion in your head, you feel confident in yourself and you're back on track after a bad day when you get bad marks or for any reason, and you're like, okay, now I'm back on track, now I'll just go back and do all of this. So I think it has been a great journey overall, and onwards from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for that. It's been a great journey, for all of us here. That's it for us. Catch you again in the next episode of Meet the Toppers. See ya. Bye bye.
Thank you.